I moved from the UK, from London to a really small village in rural Switzerland, in the heart of a national park. It's a village of 900 people.
Oh,
It's a bit of a baptism of fire. So Brexit happened, I think it was the last day of January or 1st of February. And then I moved 2 or 3 weeks later or something like that. And then COVID happened, 2 weeks after that. I feel like I live there, and more like, do I feel like, I'm really part of the community? It's really stable, and on the kind of the hard metrics, it scores really, really well. The salaries are very good by European standards, tax is very low, and despite that, all things work really well. But the negatives are that it's not very exciting.
Joe, hi, good evening, and thank you for doing this.
Hey, Paul.
Today's episode is going on a path that we haven't explored until today. So, Joe, I will let you say it because I don't want to divulge it. So, maybe you can tell us briefly first your name and then where are you living at the moment?
Hey, so I'm Joe, and I moved from the UK. I'm originally from north of England, but moved from London to actually a really small village in rural Switzerland, in the heart of a national park. It's a village of 900 people called Uken.
Oh my God.
From London to Uken was a bit of a baptism of fire. So that's kind of my migration story, I guess.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a path that we haven't explored until today. So UK to Switzerland, we haven't had until now. So we had UK to Australia, which was a huge step. Then we had Mexico to Switzerland, but not UK to Switzerland. You said London, Joe.
Yep.
Was it there the place that you grew up, or you are originally from a different city?
No, I'm originally from Newcastle, which is complete opposite end of England. It's far north of England. So already for me, London felt like an internal migration of sorts, right? From moving from one end of the country to another, particularly a big-ish country like the UK. So I kind of felt like I've been on a few moves, so to speak. Yeah, my wife is originally from China, so we're kind of got the third culture. We've got kids, so it's you kind of got a third culture kid situation.
Wow, that's extremely interesting. That's extremely interesting. Did you met in China? In UK?
Yeah, I met in the UK. I met in London. So she studied in
Okay.
London, and
Okay.
I had my first job there. We met there 7 or 8 years ago.
You said you grew up in Newcastle. It's Newcastle upon Tyre, so the one with the
Yeah, the
harbour, is
northern
that? Oh,
one.
exactly.
Yeah, there's
So,
two. There's one in Staffordshire as well in the Midlands.
but where's the football club from? Is it from the upon Tyre?
That's from my one. Yeah.
Okay, that's a different one. Okay, because everyone knows Alan Shearer for sure.
Yeah, certainly. Now, he was kind of playing up front when I was a kid, the 1990s,
Okay,
when I was growing up. So that was a big kind of cultural thing. It's kind of a region
absolutely.
obsessed by football, but I was always a rugby kid, so I've kind of been a bit different
My
from the
kind of
average.
guy. My
Yeah.
kind of guy. I like rugby as well, and it's so weird because it's not something that you get a lot of people to talk about, because everyone is able to talk about football, but rugby is just like
I know.
it's so interesting. Were you a big city kid, or were you a like countryside kid? How did you grow up, or what do you
Yeah, so
remember?
I grew up kind of in the middle of the city, kind of like a real kind of urban environment. But and then I lived in London, and then I just got to a stage where I kind of enjoyed the restaurants, the busy life, but the minute I had kids, the switch flipped, right? I just thought, nah, I've had enough of this, I had enough of trying to get the tube with small kids, and I was like, I've got to find something else. And also, that you reach that stage where, working in London, and I was looking, can I afford a house in London? No. And you go into practical mode. And I was thinking, what could I do? Where would be best for my kids to grow up? What would be best for them? Where can I build like a life? And then I thought, well, I heard of someone doing the same profession as me. I'm a lawyer, a patent lawyer, um, who moved to Switzerland, and then kind of I saw a job pop up, and I was like, let's go for it. Kind of almost a spur of the moment type thing. And I'd never been to Switzerland, not once, before I applied for this job. If I kind of heard like a lot of people saying it's like safe, it's nothing ever happens. I thought, if you're going to lose your social life once by having children, why not lose it twice? Because you can't lose it twice. Um,
You said it's so nice. You lost the social
so
life.
I just applied for a job and then came here and then and then got a job in Basel.
Hmm.
And then my wife is in finance, so I thought, where should I live? I want somewhere a bit quieter than Basel. So we basically live in a village halfway between Basel and Zurich, which has the advantage
Hmm.
of being cheaper than both. And also she can get to Zurich. Whereas if we lived in Basel, it'd be a long old commute to Zurich. So we're kind of in the middle, which suits us really well. We're really happy with where we live. We're not too far from the cities, but kind of enough that everything is like a really slow pace of life. And she goes to the village school and nothing ever happens and she's really happy.
But did you said you were living in London? You said you enjoyed the life and everything was nice. Did you ever had during your upbringing um, thoughts of moving abroad, or was just only because of the kids?
It's because of the kids and because of like the cost of living, and finding somewhere where, like London is somewhere where everything costs an extraordinary amount of money and, the salaries are not so great in the UK. So it was just like a kind of opportunity to have a better life for me, the kids, for everything really. I mean, just an old-fashioned economic migration at the end of the day.
Was it before the Brexit?
Uh, it was just before I moved. So I had my interview in like the end of 2019. Um, and like when I moved to Switzerland, it was the end of February 2020.
Oh my God! What a
Um,
perfect
so
moment.
just so Brexit happened, like I think it was like the last day of January or like 1st of February,
Yeah.
and then I moved like 2 or 3 weeks later or something like that. And then COVID happened, like 2 weeks after that. And my wife was in the UK because she had to like apply for British citizenship, and she was like having to wait to get her passport. And we had a newborn baby, and I was going to come find a flat, get all the moving stuff sorted, like all the physical lifting, putting all the furniture in place, and then she could come like I don't know 3 weeks later, something like that. And then we got stuck across where she was stuck in the UK, and I was in London, and I was in Switzerland when COVID broke.
Oh
And what's
man.
more, like, and then our landlord died. Um, and then this was the time when like
Oh man. You
all these
said you
wild
said that
rumors were happening.
you said at the beginning it was a boring story. How could that be a boring story, man?
Yeah, and my wife had like pretty much a newborn baby, like 2 or 3 months old or something like that.
Hmm.
And then like she's by herself, and then we were told her to get to the flat in a month. And then, like, there was rumors like this national lockdown, and we had she was potentially lived like homeless in a pandemic with a kid and a husband stuck in a different country. And so my dad had to drive down all the way from like far north of England, near the Scottish border, all the way to London, which is like a I don't know 5 6 hour drive. We had no furniture apart from like one bed that we just left there. I'm just gonna leave in the house. Um, and he had to go down there, sleep on the floor because all the furniture was gone, and then drive back the next day because this was like middle March, and all the other countries had locked down, but the UK under Boris Johnson was like, "Oh no, we're fine. We're just going to like ride through this."
Yeah, yeah.
So and then he had to drive all the way up the next day, and another 6 hour drive on the way back, and then my wife, bless her, had to live with my parents for 3 months
I feel
in
sorry for her.
COVID. So that was kind of unexpected. No, we didn't really have another plan. And as it happened, she didn't get to Switzerland so I left in like mid-February and I started work on the 1st of March. And she didn't get to Switzerland until the middle of June. So it's 4 months. It was meant to be like 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. And yeah, it's 4 months.
Oh man, oh man, that's a big story. But b- when you arrive. You said you arrived mid-February.
Yeah.
Um, how was the? Did you get to do the landing process or the registering process in Switzerland as an EU citizen
Uh,
still?
Effectively, yes. It was in the transition period.
Okay, that means
Um,
it was not that complicated.
no, no. And now it's a strange situation where, like, when I applied for my I got my permanent residence recently after having my 5 years. So I came in February. So, 5 years was up earlier this year in early 2025. And like, you still get like the perks of like the easier route being British now. In fact,
Hmm.
even you would even if you came after Brexit. So like we're kind of a weird. And now I've got like the hangover right, like a grandfather did.
The hangover, yeah. Okay, okay. So that means take me a bit to the registration. Did you do it by yourself, or did you have the company that hired you doing it for you?
It's pretty easy. I did have a relocation company, but there's nothing much to do. You just
Okay.
turn up, and then they just give you. In Switzerland, it's bizarre. They literally took like a photo, and then like it was like something from the 1980s, and they like cut it out and put it in like a paper booklet and like stuck it on with like glue. It was like the least like, official looking document ever. It looked like you made it at home. Or you got your kids to make it at home. They've been replaced now. They're all with like proper cards, but it used to be like kind of a bit shambolic.
That's interesting. That you wouldn't expect this from a country like Switzerland, right? So
And no, I
that's
mean it was all very organized, but like the document itself looked a bit, yeah.
and you did the registration for yourself, and when your wife joined, you had to register the kids. Did you had one, or you had already you had another kid, or you had only one that
I
you
only
bought?
had one kid at that time. Now I've got two.
Ah, okay. So you had to register it for the kid, and everything went smooth as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. How was the apartment hunting process? Or
So when I got to Switzerland, I was in like a company, like my employer like provided like a flat that was initially for
Mhm,
like a month, but then because like we got stuck over COVID, it would end up being like 3 months. But
mhm,
because no one else from you was coming in, there was no real pressure for me to get out,
mhm,
which was nice. So I ended up not having to pay for any accommodation for 3 months. And it's meant to be a lot shorter. Um, yeah, it was nice. It was kind of a bit lonely. It was kind of a bit of a shock being by myself after, being with a newborn and everything. Um, but yeah, it was all kind of simple. And then, moved to the new flat in June, I think. Um, but yeah, no, it's all kind of quite smooth. Like Switzerland's a well-organized country. Like nothing is complicated or goes wrong. You hear all these horror stories about like 300 people queuing for an apartment in Zurich because they've got these price controls, right? Which makes it, look, it's good on one hand, and that in case, people pay less. But then the quid pro pro is that if the prices are good, then, everyone wants it in these areas. And so it's impossible to get. But where I live in like kind of a rural area, it's really not so bad. So we only missed out on one apartment and found the second one we're looking for.
mhm.
And then the handover, pretty simple.
I can imagine that searching, like you said. So it's I think Zurich, Basel, all big cities are a horror to get an apartment in for sure. But I think as long as you move on the countryside. But how was the how receptive is the countryside of Switzerland to foreigners?
I would say the general kind of vibe is like no one wants to talk to you, but no one gives you any trouble. It's, you just basically it's, yeah, you're there.
Hmm.
We'll leave you alone and you leave us alone.
Okay.
I think it's probably a very hard country to properly integrate in,
Hmm.
because, I think, most other countries in Europe, when you learn the language, you
Hmm.
learn like, the writing and the speaking match.
Hmm.
I know you're in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Presumably you've learned German to some
Yeah.
degree, but how you've encountered Swiss German at some stage. Oh, you
That's not
haven't?
German. That's not German.
Yeah,
No,
exactly
no.
right. It's not
That's
German. So like you have to like learn German and then learn Swiss German when you for kind of not when you've learned German already to a decent standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, I think it's quite a challenging, language, especially in more rural areas.
Hmm.
So like, I can understand what's written quite well, but spoken, it varies. I think
Hmm.
especially if people don't realize I'm a foreigner and they come up to me and then they speak in total dialect, then it's quite challenging. My German's pretty bad, to be honest, but I've learned enough that I could go in and I'll have like a what I would call post office German, where I can think about it in advance and it's a very scripted, staged situation.
Is there at a previous episode? And it's so funny. I had an episode that I think one of the previous one with Paul. He's living in Germany from UK as well, and he called it exactly post office German. Is it a pattern in UK? Like that's why
I
you
don't know.
learned those?
Perhaps it is. I thought came up with this, but maybe it's a phrase that others use as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you could call it like supermarket German or something like that. Where it's just you've got a very simple sentence to say, and you can think about it in advance, and you know what the response is going to be, and it's in a particular
The, the the thing that
confines.
the thing that I discussed with him is that it's so bad when they move out of your prepared speech and they have I don't know they have a question that you didn't plan in your speech and then it gets you off the track and then but no, that wasn't vibite, that was not meant to be there. Like, and then your speech, because I know exactly what you mean by this prepared speech. Like every time when I called an office, when I called the authorities, I always prepared my speech at the beginning and try to get exactly every possible question that could have come. I have prepared an answer for it. But sometimes there is an unscripted question that is coming up and is messing up the complete speech that you have prepared. That's so complicated.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think my German learning has been hindered by a couple of things. One of them is the fact that it's a very, very strong dialect of German. Probably stronger than anywhere in Germany, I'd imagine. And even by Swiss standards, it's not super easy.
Hmm.
Um, and the second one is like working in English. It's kind of a weird situation. I mean, I guess there's not many other times like it, where you move to a country that doesn't have your native language and work in your own native language. Um, so that makes it hard because I'm just in English all day, and then I go home. I've got a long commute at home, and I'm in English at home. My wife's Chinese, but she lived in London, speaks fluent English. So like I've learned enough for permanent residence, but like I don't haven't excelled if I'm honest.
How are
Um,
how is it for the kids?
Oh
Do
yeah, no,
they
no.
go?
My kid, she like everyone knows that she's got a British passport. She kind of looks, like half Chinese, half European, half British. But then she speaks like a Swiss farmer, because she's got no dialect from us.
Correct.
And then she grows up in like a farming village, so she speaks like a farmer. So the thing which comes out of the German, which comes out of her mouth, is not what you'd expect.
The mismatch of those things, I think, must be extremely funny. Extremely
Yeah, I
funny.
mean, it's just what it is. Like certainly to me anyway. I mean, I don't know if the Swiss would see it the same. But certainly like to me, it sounds very Swissified German. Well, I guess
Hmm.
it's what you expect, right? That's
Absolutely.
her main experience of German. Sure, she watches like regular German on the TV sometimes, but most of the time she's seeing it at school and everyone's speaking the dialect.
Absolutely. And I think it's good that you don't try to speak with her because we have the same thing with our son. We don't speak with him German and he's actually learning German from, we live in the Swabian area of Germany. So he's, he's speaking German
Oh, okay, so you're not too
like,
far from us, just a bit to
no,
the
no, no,
north.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm, I would say 2 hours away from Zurich.
Yeah. So you got kind of a bit of Alemannic lilt up there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not far away from the Bodensee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Not too far. Not too far at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why my son is speaking German like a Swabian from the countryside because he's talking with his colleague in school and that's what's happening.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
we're really keen, especially with I think English is one of those ones where I'm not too worried about because I just think with a bit of English at home and the fact it's such a ubiquitous presence. I'm not too worried about my kids' English, although that's pretty much the only language I speak to any good degree. So obviously I talk to her in English, but we've really worked hard on making sure her Chinese is really good. My
Oh,
wife, my
nice.
wife, my wife speaks to her like unless I'm like really involved in the conversation, pretty much like exclusively in Chinese. And she has like online lessons with tutors in China and got to reading Chinese as well. So really trying hard to keep all her kind of cultural influences going, so she's kind of growing up in all three cultures at once.
That's so nice. My son kind of doesn't really speak Romanian anymore, so he's understanding, but he's not speaking that good anymore, and we are struggling with that, to be honest. And that's something which kind of a pain for me. And I know I completely. I think that's the same for your wife. So I think it's a pain to talk to the family, and it's a pain to talk to whomever is only speaking the mother's language, to say it like this. What was the first impression, Joe? Not during COVID, because during COVID, I think the first impression is, like you said, loneliness, nobody there.
Mm.
I think you are alone, you work from home. I do suppose there was not much office discussion with the colleagues. But what was your first impression when you actually get to live the Swiss life in a village?
I kind of thought it was kind of too good to be true. Uh, I just like everything coming from the UK where everything is like either broken or dirty. Like sure, there's good points, but like, but in Switzerland, like it just seemed that everything, like I commuted by train when COVID died down a bit, and like the train was never, and I mean never, late. It took me like 3 years until the train was late, and then it was because like there was literally a fire at the next station. So fair enough, that's a good excuse.
Makes sense.
Um, like a building was on fire next to the track. Like everything just seems to run really, really well, and it's got a bit of a reputation being like hyper organized, hyper vigilant. I kind of thought like, what's the catch? What's the catch? Um, I
Where is the
guess,
surprise? Where is
I
the
guess
surprise coming?
no, but I guess it felt just really, really great to begin with, and I think the longer I'm here, the more I think you get used to the positives, and I kind of realize there is a bit of a catch. Like there is a strange feeling where I've been here for quite a while, like 5.5 years, and the kind of feeling that like it's home on one level. Like this is where like my kid grows up. I bought a house here now. I don't see myself going home unless I'm forced to. But at the same time, like it's never going to be like it's never going to be like your home. It's never going to be like where you're from. It's never going to be like where you've got less kind of cultural understanding and where all these little cultural quirks. So it's always a bit. When we go home, I always feel especially to like my bit of England, like the northeast. I always feel like kind of nostalgic, miss it, but at the same time wouldn't really want to. It's nice to be there for like 2 weeks, but I wouldn't want to deal with the practical difficulties living up there. Um, so it kind of feels like, I mean, it's a really nice situation to be in living in Switzerland, but like it always feels a bit like I don't have the cultural, especially when you don't speak the language super well. And there's like a really close knit community of like rural local people speaking dialect. You kind of miss out a bit on the like interpersonal interactions. Um, and kind of live a bit like a ghost in like a rural village. We just go home and go to sleep and go to the office the next day. So that's the catch, I think. The catch is that, maybe like without really good language skills, and that's hard, with language with strong dialect, you're kind of missing out a bit on kind of a personal connection.
Mhm. I You said something which I said as well quite often. I'm not going home unless I'm forced to. That's my statement as well, and I think I quoted almost in every episode Priyanka. I had Priyanka who moved from India to UK, and she said something which I think it fits for all the expats, is that you belong everywhere and nowhere. Like you don't really have that belonging when you moved to, but you
Mm,
don't have that belonging in your former home anymore. Like it's a mix. It's a strange feeling that only an expat can understand. Um, and I fully agree with you, Joe, with the missing on social interactions. That's something which is, I have to say that that's something which was on my plate at the beginning as well for quite long. It took us a while to learn the language as well, and we were kind of in the same situation where I didn't speak with my mother's language at work, but I was speaking English, which I was okay in, so I didn't have to struggle. And also in the same time, like when you want to do something social, you need to speak German because otherwise there is no way in which you can connect to the locals. But most probably that's the catch. But that's not the catch of Switzerland. That's the catch of every expat move.
True, true.
That's that's just what everyone has to know when they are trying to do this, or when they are planning to do
Yeah,
this
I guess
move.
Switzerland specifically, like it's not the most lively place, right? It's the type of place where like neighbors will call the police if you like if there's any noise at like 10:01 p.m. They're kind of sticklers for the rules. And like everything like is catered for like the Swiss taste. You know, like we're talking I think before the recording started about Mexican food. And like, it's everything like the Indian food, it's all like they all cater for the local Swiss taste, which is very plain, very vanilla. And like not when you live in like a city like London, something like I always used to say, something always happens. Like you go out your door and like there's some event which takes place almost every week. And there's
Hmm.
something you can talk about and something, like you can talk to your family about like X happened, isn't that crazy? So I feel like in Switzerland, like nothing crazy has happened in the 5 years since I came. So I think if what I would say to people who are thinking about moving to Switzerland is like it's really stable and like on the kind of the hard metrics, it scores really really well. Like the salaries are very good by European standards, tax is very low, and despite that, all things work really well. But like the negatives are that it's not very exciting. I mean, you have to really like outside space, right? It's a very, very objectively, it's a very beautiful country, like lakes, mountains, etc., etc. I'm sure everyone knows. So it's really well catered to an uh, kind of outdoorsy people. And I think another thing which is I didn't quite appreciate, so coming here with kids is like there's a bit of like a it's a bit like living in the 1950s when it comes to childcare. Like I know people, I work right next to the German border, and all people who live in Germany, sure, they like to pay loads more tax, like twice as much tax as we do. But like, all the childcare is like pretty much 100%, close to 100% funded. I don't know how much it costs, but not much. I've put in the kids in childcare, whereas like, I've got two kids, and it is like, well, speaking euros, it's like 3,000 euros per child per month for putting a kid in,
What?
in daycare. Yeah. And I guess in Germany it's probably more 300, right?
It's
um,
300 if you. So daycare, it's I think the government subsidized one at 450 or something.
okay, yeah.
But still
Yeah, it's
nothing
not
compared to the
3,000.
3,000. Yeah, yeah. Okay, crazy. So it doesn't really make sense for your wife to go
Well,
to
no, my wife
work
does
then.
work. She does work.
Okay.
And our kids are kind of quite staggered in age. So we're only kind of paying twice for a little bit of time.
Hmm.
But it's a country where like the whole system is like very set up. I mean, I'm going to be quite honest here. For like women to stay at home, it's a very
Patriarchal.
we look at it compared to UK and especially like London, like, that probably died off, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And Switzerland, it's still, I heard, a friend came around the other day, um, and she was told, like, why do you work when your husband has a job? And this is kind of like, you know, and, and it's more than like the attitude. I think you could live with this kind of attitude. And this is just what people say, like, but the practical ramifications are that keys are very expensive, and also the school. Like my daughter finishes school every day at 11:40. Um,
That's still
and
half
then
of
you were
day
just
two.
expected to be there to pick her up. Um,
Exactly.
and you just have to deal with it. And in a small village like where I live, it's they can have lunch at like a place next to the school. But that's it, like from like 1 o'clock, I think, or 1:30, that, then you'd have to pick your kid up every day. So we've got like a, working from home arrangement, we swap working from home. Then my wife works home some days, I work home another. But like, like in the UK, it would be, kid probably in school till, I don't know, 3:30, which is a lot more manageable than 11. Um, 11:30. So it's not like in some ways it's very friendly for people with parents because you can actually afford a house. At least if you live in a rural area, much more than living near London. But it comes at a cost. Like, it's just really, really set up for like a traditional, like, dad goes to work and mum stays at home. That's just like it's still on that kind of
I I had
mindset.
this is an interesting discussion, Joe, because we often have this discussion in general, not only about our case, but because you don't. We have the possibility to leave our son in school. We had it in the kindergarten. We have the possibility to leave him in school until 6 p.m. So it's actually 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We never use that. So we never use that. So we try to always pick him up when the school is finished, and only in special situations to
Mm.
leave him to play there. I realize more and more every time when I go to a parents meeting, you have this, I don't know how they are called in English, the official name, but in German there are this Elternabend, where you go there and you have these meetings where the principal of the school is always saying the same thing. Please try to pick up your kids in time. Your kids need you more than they need us. And it could be that even though it's hard for you now, it could be that for your kids is absolutely the right thing. We never know. We never know for sure. We don't know that. It's not for a grinding mentality for sure. It's not for this. Let's push it. Let's make another promotion. Let's get this and that, because it's a different mentality for sure. But you don't know what's right at the end. We don't know. I will just say the same as I said last time. We're just winging it. We are always trying to find our way through this life. There is no user manual when you start it. And I think it's good for your kids that they get to see one of you every day. I think that's amazing. And they see a lot of you. Let's say it like this. And even though they come home, they get to play, and you still have to work, but you are there. Like you take them home, you have a nice walk with them home, and I think that's a benefit. I see it as a benefit. I have to
Yeah,
be honest.
definitely. I can't imagine what it was like in the days before home working, how people manage this. It's not easy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is that if, like you said, you are living on a rural area, I think a possibility to find a nanny, like someone to take your kids home, it's almost not there. Like you have it in big cities. I had a really good quote a few days ago. I don't remember from whom, and I'm sorry for that, but he said something like, "It's interesting how as soon as the society is evolving, we are buying the community back." So back then you're living in a small city or in a small village, and you had the neighbors looking over your kid, but now you have to buy that service from someone. You go to work, you make more money, but you have to buy the person that take care of your kid and so on. And I think that's interesting. And I think the benefit of the fact that you get to spend with your kid every day, we don't, as I said, it's only my opinion. I stand behind it. I think your kids are extremely happy and lucky to have one of you every day. Um, did you have the feeling that you said about food, and I want to come back to food, because I had the same problem at the beginning, and not at the beginning, but I still have it with the German restaurants, because the thing is that this adaptation, this local adaptation, like you said, you have Chinese food, but it's Germanized.
Yeah.
You have Vietnamese food, but it's Germanized. You have Indian food, and every time I love Indian food, and every time when I go to an Indian food in Germany, I have to tell him, don't make it German spicy.
Yeah.
Just make it really spicy.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, most of my restaurant experiences are, even though I live in Switzerland, are actually in Germany, because I live maybe like 5 kilometers from the border, and it's half the price in Germany. So when I'm talking about my restaurant experience, most of it is in Germany rather than
Okay,
Switzerland.
okay. So you know
Yeah,
what I mean by the Indian
I know
experience,
exactly
right?
what you mean. Yeah, yeah. But then, I got a bit too cocky, and when they said how many do you want it on a 1 to 5 spice level, I said 5, and then it came and it was like eye-wateringly hot. I had to go down to a 4 for next time.
That's true. But after you miss it for a while, you need it, like that
Yeah,
pure spiciness, which is really amazing. But I don't know if you had the experience because you said you had the German restaurants experience. What my experience is saying is that the Italian restaurants in Germany are really the Italian authentical experience.
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know if you
Italian. I guess it's not really my thing.
okay,
No, not really my thing. I tend to be more of an Asian food guy, whether that's like Chinese or Southeast Asian or Indian or maybe Mexican. But I like things with a bit of kick. Like Italian food always feels a bit vanilla to me. Although actually, having said that, we went to a local pizza place in the village recently with another British kind of expat, and for Switzerland, actually the food was really good and not too expensive. But then, somewhat bizarrely, it kind of turned, even though it's like a proper restaurant, it almost turned into like a quasi nightclub where the lights went low and the kind of had like a DJ. I guess because like they don't have any pub culture, like a evening out is maybe a bit more. I don't know. Like
but I've seen that in Mannheim as well in Germany. That's so interesting. Also in the Italian restaurant.
yeah.
That's so interesting. I thought it's only a German thing, but I don't know. Most probably, if you live don't far away from the board, if
No,
you
it's not
live
far at
not so,
all.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
could
Most
literally
probably
walk.
that's
You could
the.
literally walk.
How do you enjoy the walking experience in Switzerland, Joe? And I know London is also walkable, and you take a lot of public transport and so on. But I mean the nature walks in
Yeah, that's
Switzerland.
interesting you mentioned that. So I live in the middle of I guess the Jurassic Park, right? The Jura National Park, where they found all the dinosaurs. And it's incredibly picturesque. Like people talk about like the Swiss mountain range being the Alps, right? But actually, like for me, I don't know the Alps. It's not actually very walkable. We go down to the Alps because it's all it's super steep and proper mountains.
Hikeable,
Yeah,
hikeable.
if that, right? Climbable.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas the Jura, like it's a bit like I guess a bit like the Scottish Highlands. It's all like rolling hills, really beautiful. Like um walkable, no sharp peaks, but like really picturesque, with like tree lined, like limestone, like a few kind of caves, lots of it, and it's really empty. It's really empty, and you can get really beautiful kind of walking experiences. I think lots of Swiss people actually go to the Jura. And don't go to the Alps so much because it's actually somewhere you can enjoy the walk. You're not covered, you're not surrounded by tourists trying to sell you like an overpriced hat, and it's actually a very very I don't know. For me, I just love walking in the Jura, and this is something I try to do like every weekend. And like I say, it's in Switzerland. You really have to like the outdoors. If you don't like the outdoors, it's a limited amount of things to do. And there's paths everywhere. I always lived in cities before, so I've never really had this like countryside living. But I think even in the UK, like it wouldn't be so like well connected. Like you can walk from any town to any other town. There's lots of paths up in the hills. So yeah,
Uh huh.
it's a beautiful place to walk. And there's kind of a very famous like cherry tree walk in the Fructal. It's known for its cherries. And you walk past all of the cherry trees and blossom. It kind of Maytime.
Okay, so Southern Korea style.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, it's interesting that you said. I think the Alps are incredible, and for me, Switzerland is an amazing country, even to drive through. We drive often to Italy, going from Germany to Italy, and we take Switzerland, and we pay the highway protection tax, which is amazing. Like for everyone watching this, I don't know if everybody's aware of it. The highway tax in Switzerland, it's so easy. You just can pay it for 1 year.
Yeah, the
So
vignettes.
that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you're doing
So
well
you
if that's
pay.
all you pay and no fines for doing something. Like they seem to fine people constantly for doing like the most minor breaking of the rules.
Look, I got my fair share of fines in Germany after I moved from Romania because you move from a country where driving is not, so the driving rules are optional mostly.
Yeah.
So you don't respect them all, and then you go to Germany and I had speed tickets in the first 2 months more than I could afford. That was just crazy. No, I just paying the vignette, but I love driving through it as well. And there are a lot of amazing places in the Alps as well that you can walk. I don't know if you know the gorges. So there are these places where you can walk like just on the side of a river and on the corner of the mountains. That those are amazing. There are three spots which are really
Yeah.
amazing in
Actually,
Switzerland.
no, the proper hiking in the Alps, because I've always had small kids. It's something I've always
Hmm.
kind of like, it's always been like next year. Maybe it'll be a few more years, depending if this is my last, depending if we stop at two kids or whether we have a third, we'll see. But yeah, certainly this is something I've really got to do a lot more of. Like, it's hard to take advantages of everything a country has to offer when you've got small children.
Absolutely, absolutely. When was the moment when you feel like you truly live in Switzerland, not visiting anymore?
Oh goodness, that's a hard question to answer. Oftentimes I hear like people say when you move to a country, you've got to get through like a period of being upset, like being homesick.
Hmm.
Like for me, that didn't happen at all. I moved and like it was just fine from day one. I was like, well, this is okay. And actually, I was really enjoying myself. Like I said earlier, there's when I came here, I was like, what's a catch? I had
Hmm.
no issues whatsoever. Even when there was COVID, like it was like when we had that, lockdown in the UK, it was like you can't be more than like a mile from your house. You can't be within like 2 meters of someone. In Switzerland, it was just like, yeah, don't go to the shop. But then like, everyone was out. You see, you saw loads of people like biking outside, walking through like the parks, and actually like, yeah, life wasn't normal, but at the same time, like it wasn't restricted in a way. Like I had a really lovely time during lockdown, apart from missing my kid, and that was horrible. But in terms of like being in the outdoors in a new country, that was really beautiful. And considering I moved to a new country just for lockdown, I felt kind of home almost immediately. Um, I, Switzerland has a reputation of being boring, safe, solid, and that's exactly what it was. Even though I had like no experience of being in Switzerland before I came, I'd literally just come for the interview. Um, but it was exactly what it was promised or what it was sold as. So like I didn't, I kind of felt at home immediately. So like I kind of, I guess maybe a bit when COVID calmed down and my wife and kid came a few months later, and by that time like I'd been there for 3 months and just felt like home.
Hmm.
It was pretty much immediate. I certainly, I think that the problem is less like do I feel like I live there, and more like do I feel like I'm really part of the community. Like
The
my
community.
wife is really good at talking to people and not, she's got a kind of decentish German, I guess, a bit better than mine. But mine's like a mixture of being like a little bit afraid to approach people, with a bit of like hesitancy about language barrier. She just goes straight in. So I think, I feel like, to properly be there, I don't, I don't think I'll ever make that. But at the same time, you need to learn to be, if that's never going to happen for you, you need to learn to be happy with where you're at, right? Um, there's always a cost, whether that's working really hard on your language skills or whether it's, like living with maybe a slightly reduced social life, there's always some kind of drawback.
You always
Um,
have to choose your heart.
yeah, exactly. You got to choose your poison, and being a bit away from my friends, from home, being away from my family. This is the cost. But and you're never always feeling like you're never fully at home anywhere, like you said earlier.
Is it friends and family that you miss the most from UK or food?
I would say the food's just kind of more kind of disappointing. I don't think that's a big deal to me. Just little cultural aspects. Like I miss a proper British pub. I miss with all due respect to like German and Swiss beers. I miss a proper beer with like a cask beer. And British beer doesn't travel, right? You can get a German beer in a bottle.
It's crazy,
And that's
true.
great. And a German beer is good in a bottle because it's keg beer. It comes out with a carbonation. Whereas a proper
Yeah,
British beer, it has to be like hand drawn, no added carbon dioxide, and so it doesn't travel. And I miss a proper British pub. Miss the atmosphere. I miss a British beer, even though I enjoy a German beer, a Swiss beer too. Well, actually, no, not so much a Swiss beer, maybe a German beer. But like I miss a British pub, miss the atmosphere. Like it doesn't like Switzerland doesn't have a pub culture. Um, just
that
little cultural things from they're always going to be different moving from one country to another. I miss that a little bit.
the it's interesting. As I said, I had Paul in the previous episode, and he said completely the opposite. I enjoy German beer more than the English one. I said, come on, man, you cannot say that. I mean, everyone from UK will gonna kill
Oh,
you.
it's
Why
not that I
did
don't.
say
I totally like to respect a German beer, but that doesn't mean I can't miss a British one. And I think
correct?
I think it depends whether you're like a real ale fan, like I am, which
You cannot
whether you
get
like a
it
cask
anywhere else.
beer, not one of the
Yeah,
one fizzy ones, it's hold on tap. The one where they got to go like really pull it like this,
yeah,
you can't. That doesn't travel. So every time I'm in England, I make a point to go to an English pub and have a real ale.
correct. I mean, the pub experience is something that you only can get in England, Ireland. I mean, the United Kingdom. I would just sum it up, and Ireland,
Yeah.
because that's where you get. How was the how was the evolution of your career? You said you are working only in English. You said you are a lawyer, Joe.
Yeah.
Is it international law?
So I'm a patent attorney specifically, and that's
Okay.
like a Europe-wide qualification. Um, so like yeah, you can practice like in front of the European Patent Office in English, French, or German. And for me, I mean, let's be
Okay.
honest, like 95% is in English
English,
generally, and especially in
absolutely.
my field, right? I'm in pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Maybe kind of small like manufacturing companies, you might get more kind of
Hmm.
local language like French or German, but in my field, I see very, very rarely something it's not English. Like Novartis, I work for Novartis, a big pharma company, in Basel, and it's very, very, very international, and everything's in English. And we've got loads of commuters coming over from France, who live in France and are French, and so like a lot of people, maybe some of them know German, but a lot of them won't and have no interest,
Hmm.
no need, they've already got to learn English. um, but, so it's basically 100% English atmosphere.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll never. It's one of those things we've got to be extremely fluent, practice law and language. Like every little word matters.
Correct.
So like, and like
Correct.
the nuances matter. So it's not something where you can get like a B2 and like be fine in it. It's you've really got to be like a C2.
Sit too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's just not going to happen for me. If I get to B2, I'll be amazed and delighted.
That's why I ask you about the international law, because I think law is something. First of all, it's local,
Mm.
and like you said, but the pattern it's international, so I think that's quite easy. And like you said, mother language is important because every nuance is critical in
Yeah,
law.
I've got absolutely zero. Like I 100% know I will never ever be able to practice in German, and I've completely accept that, and that's fine. It's in my field. I'm kind of
Sometimes,
quite lucky. Well, lucky or unlucky. I'm lucky in the respect that almost all the jobs like are in English. But at the same time, that does make it hard. It makes it hard to learn a native language.
absolutely. The, sometimes I have for work to read the German laws, and that's,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
it's I have to say it's not a walk in the park. No, it's yeah. You don't get to understand. How was the this I have to ask, because you mentioned earlier that you purchased a house.
Mm.
Um, how was the contract signing process? Did you had any English support?
Uh, basically, well, this is quite a while ago when we signed the contract. It's like 2 years ago. I think now my wife might be able to handle it. I could, no, I basically couldn't, but she would pull me through. At the time, my wife was maybe a little bit lower standard. I mean, basically got a Swiss friend to sign it for us.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, understood.
but we managed like get a translation into English. Google Translate works very well these days. So we
Hmm.
just translated it all. And actually, my employer provides a service where someone will look at the contract and give you some advice, which is really good.
It's interesting. We did the same a few years ago. We did purchase the house, and uh, fortunately enough, they gave us the contract, I think, 1 month before the signing, so that we get the time to read it at home.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was so good because the guy, the notary, is
Hmm.
it notary in English?
Yes, yeah, yeah, same. It's German,
Oh, thank you.
basically. Yeah.
So the notary read it in front of us because he had to read it in front of us and the other couple that was selling the house. But man, I got nothing. So I was
I mean, it's often
like,
very technical words, right? It's not easy.
absolutely, absolutely. We call it in Romanian wooden language.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the term that you use in English as well, but in Romania we call it this wooden
No,
language,
we
like the
don't, but it makes
language.
sense. And I guess to be honest, there's probably loads of people out there who don't understand words like that in their native language.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. The guys that we bought the house from, they say the same. Man, we don't get Spanish, but that's so it's okay. That's why we have the notaries. Um, what's something about Switzerland, Joe, that you think people don't expect until they move?
Goodness, that's a hard question because in my experience, it was very much as advertised. I would say that one thing that did surprise me a little bit is it does feel very strongly divided. There's a really strong internal division within Switzerland, like like the culture between the French and the German bit. They seems like everyone in the German bit of Switzerland, like where I live, like seems like they will rarely go to French speaking in Switzerland, and to maybe a slightly lesser extent, vice versa. And like every referendum, you can like literally look on the map. It's like the kind of voting follows exactly the linguistic boundary, and there is quite a internal divide. I think in Switzerland they kind of feel very unified as a country, but to me as an outsider, it does look like there's some kind of tension between the two halves in some respects. I don't know if Swiss would describe it in those terms, but it does seem like this almost might be insulting to Swiss, but it kind of feels quite artificial. The two halves of a very different language and a very different culture.
Hmm.
Perhaps they would see themselves as more unified than that, but it feels very, very different to me. Like whenever I cross into Romandy, the French-speaking half, it feels totally different, and the Italian bit feels even more different. You're crossing the Alps to get there.
Yeah.
um, but I guess for the Italian bit feels like it's I don't know, like a random bit of Italy that's just delighted to be in Switzerland and could be in this rich country.
Absolutely. I have to say I felt the same when I was there, and there is no. I, I'm talking about Italian part now. I never realized there is any kind of accent when they were speaking Italian. So I really had the feeling that they are speaking the Italian that I knew from Italy.
Yeah.
Due to my Romanian heritage, I can understand Italian, most of it. I think 80-90% of it. But like you said, I never had the feeling that I'm in Switzerland. I always had the feeling that I'm in Italy.
Yeah, the thing with the Italian speaking bit of Switzerland is I can never quite decide whether it's like the Italian zest with a Swiss organization or whether it's the Swiss zest with the Italian organization. Um,
That was so funny.
I kind of, I kind of almost feel like I kind of flip between speaking to one or the other. It does sometimes feel like it's a little bit loses some of that Italian, randomness. Like, when you're in Italy, like there's some like crazy driver, you're driving at 200 miles an hour. Something's always going to be like disorganized but kind of fun. I don't really get that so much in the Italian
in
bit of
the Swiss
Switzerland.
part.
No, no.
Yeah.
Um, it kind of feels like a very watered down Italy. Maybe somewhere to go for Swiss Germans to go on holiday if they're not brave enough to go to the real Italy.
Absolutely. See, but it's interesting. They all speak the three languages, right? Or is it only
Oh
an
no,
outside
no, no, no,
opinion?
no, no, no,
No.
no, no. Like certainly, I think where I am, you would be very hard pressed to find someone unless they're from of Italian heritage. If they're presumably they're just from local descent, like local Swiss German descent, I think very few would be able to hold down a conversation in Italian. Um, yeah, very, very rare.
Okay.
Yeah, and French. mm, I think the older generation were raised, where French was the first like foreign. I know it's like a little Swiss language, but to them it's foreign, first foreign language. And I think you might have a decent chance with an older person. I think with a younger person, it's actually got worse because English has become like the first foreign language.
Ah,
Um,
really?
yeah, it does depend a bit where in the German speaking bit. So if you're from closer to the linguistic boundary, um, you might get people a bit better. Like if you're from Bern, in the west of the German speaking area, you might have people, you might find a lot of good French. Whereas where I'm from, a bit further east, I think you're more likely to find either, in my village, most people I think would either be monolingual German speakers or having English to some degree. And then French rarer, and then predominantly older people I think would be happier in French.
I always imagine that at least in the border areas, and I mean by border, not the official borders, but the unofficial borders between the regions. In
Röstigraben.
exactly, I always thought that in those border regions, they are speaking at least the two languages of the border,
Yeah, I
because
think
I
close to the border, yes, but I think that that only really seems to apply for a few kilometers, or maybe if you're in the bilingual canton, it's pushed a bit harder. Um, I certainly think if you're in like up in the Valais and up in the Alps, I think if you're in the German bit, most of them will be able to hold on a conversation in French, as I understand it.
Mhm.
I'm still, but out here, less, significantly less.
I'm quite. I most probably know. I don't know if you know it, but you know Europa Park. So
Oh yeah, of course. We go to Europe Park all the time. I'm actually
yeah,
actually
we go to Rolantica as well. I don't know if you
oh yeah,
know
the
Rolantica. So
water park. Yeah, yeah, no. We
exactly.
we we go. We were currently trying to break last time we went. We braved the German trains, and that was a mistake. We've been twice now, and both times we were there more than an hour later than we should be. So it's been a choice between this expensive Swiss train. It's like a direct train from Basel that goes all the way to the Europa Park,
Hmm.
like without a single stop. But it's really,
Oh,
It's Swiss prices. So we tried
okay.
that, and then we went for the German trains, which were just. It seems like the German trains have a lot of issues, and they're just constantly late. But now we found that there's in the the village, well, village next to where I live, there's a bus that goes there. So I think we're going to take that next time. But we go
Okay.
all the time. My kids absolutely love it, and it's not too far.
It's an amazing place. And I was just saying, mentioning Europa Park and Rolantica as well, because those area, that area is just for everyone who doesn't know, it's right in the corner between Germany, Switzerland, and France. So it's, of course, not exactly the corner, but the let's say the corner area. And they look to speak, they seems to me to speak French as good as German.
Yeah.
On both sides. So I never met anyone who only was able to speak only German.
No, most of them speak it, as soon as I say a sentence in German, then they reply in English nowadays.
Exactly, exactly. And if you like, I have to give you a tip. If you like entertainment parks, and it's also not so far away from you, as far as I know, maybe yeah, of course, far away than Europa Park is, but there is an amazing one in Italy, which is called Gardaland.
Oh yeah, no. We were actually planning going there as well. I went
It's
I
so
went
nice.
there a very long time ago. We're talking over, well, yeah, 20, 21 years ago. And I was kind of in my late
Oh,
teens. Um,
Nice.
so it's been a long, long time, but I might go back there.
Nice. That means you actually know how it looked like before.
Yeah, although it's a long time ago, my memory's a bit fuzzy.
But I have to say it's really enjoyable, and Gardaland it has an that I know now around about the age of your kids, and I have to say that the it's enjoyable for kids, for toddlers and a bit bigger than toddler
Hmm.
ages, because there is a happiness in the air. Like you don't feel that in Gardaland. There's always happy music playing, and you don't have it in Europa Park, I meant. But in Gardaland you have the. I think it's from my point of view is I think that the group that they focus on is this, like, I don't know, 3 to 8 or 9 years
Oh,
old,
okay, yeah.
because
My
they
daughter's been desperate to go to Europa Park, and she always asks if she's like tall enough to go on the 6-year-old rides. Yeah, 'cause, she's always a
exactly.
little bit
And
too short. Maybe by the end of the summer she'll squeak over that 120 centimeter boundary.
and I have to say the in Gardaland I think there are two big roller coasters that they are not able to ride, but that other than that, everything they are able to
Yeah,
ride
and I
everything, and they
imagine
have.
the maybe I'm making a bit of a stereotype here, but I imagine the Italians are less strict on enforcing the rules than the Germans.
Nah, no, no,
No,
no. They
really.
actually
Oh.
are. Yeah, they actually. It's yeah. It's quite critical because they talk with you talk about kids, and if something is happening, then it's not something that you can play with.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, to be fair, the my kid is right on the border, like,
Mhm.
and they seem to be okay in Europa Park, but it was like touch and go. It's like, was it 119 or 120? No, but it was
Yeah,
that
yeah.
close.
Okay, okay. That's something you can get through with
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Um, what's your favorite hidden gem in Switzerland, Joe? Is it Jura, like you said, or it's do you have something more as well?
Well, yeah, in terms of like the outdoorsiness, yeah, for 100%. If you're kind of a tourist looking to go to Switzerland, I would totally go to the Jura. What I
Mhm.
would not do so much of is all these like all the mountains seem to be the same. Like you go up cable car, and then there's like some overpriced restaurant or like place where you can buy a 15 bottle of cola and a 20 bar,
You are
a
my kind
20
of guy.
euro chocolate
You
bar.
are my kind of guy. Yeah, absolutely. And an
Yeah,
Instagrammable place that you
yeah,
can take a picture
exactly. An
of.
Instagram, yeah, like
Yeah.
take it, press a button here, and get your Instagram. I think yeah, you
Uh,
can do one of those. You can do like one boat trip. But like I kind of feel like when you do one of those, you've done them all. Whereas the Jura is a bit more organic. Like you
mhm,
see like real Switzerland with like um, real Swiss people. And if you're going to go to the mountains, I would say go to somewhere like Uri or Glara, somewhere that's a bit less set up for the tourism. Like I think
mhm.
by all means go to like one of the big touristy places, like go up the Jungfrau, on that 300 euro train, sure, and get a photo. But go to somewhere a little bit less commonly visited. Um, but having said that, I actually really enjoyed. It's like a panoramic train. You can go in Graubünden in the southeast of Switzerland, and that was absolutely for something that's very touristy and not normally
Is
my
it the
thing.
is it the Glacier Express?
Yeah, I think there's two. There's the Glacier Express, and then there's another one. I can't remember which around it is, but it's the one that basically like it goes in, and it's hard to describe. It goes like into the middle of the mountain. It's like on a huge like viaduct or aqueduct, whatever it's called, and then like travels right into the mountain. Like the engineering to go up there is incredible. And it goes
Okay.
like kind of like it's a proper train. It's not like a cable car, and it goes like 2,000 plus
Yeah.
meters.
But then most probably is the Glacier Express. It's not the one starting from Italy, right? Because there are two, like you said. It's one that is only in Swiss, and there is one starting from Italy.
Oh yeah, I think it's the Bernina Express, but I think the Glacier one you might
Exactly.
have a very similar kind of experience on.
Yeah.
But that I enjoyed that. I went through that in the middle of winter and seeing
Hmm.
like the snow being like on roofs like up at 2K, like being like the snow was like 2 meters deep, if not more. Again, coming from a country that's you never get that, even in the north, you would never ever see that. And it's kind of a I'm one of these people who
Absolutely.
like despite moving to Switzerland, like skiing is my idea of hell. Like, you know, I don't really understand how skiing is a Swiss sport because it's a country that's like solid, safe, dependable. And skiing for me is like, it's a bit too adrenaline filled, like I like it solid and safe and dependable.
The,
And I
the,
don't like the feeling of, being out of control with gravity. At
the,
least
the
that was,
thing is that the thing is that if you start skiing as a kid, it's like riding on a bicycle.
yeah.
This is what I got told. I'm not able to ski as well. I'm like you. I love my feet as they are in one piece. I don't love my feet when they are in two or three pieces. So I will never start
Yeah,
skiing
I
now
like,
because it's too late.
yeah, and I like roller coasters where, Toy Europa Park, where you feel like in control, like skiing. And I mean, I'm sure it's great, but I've never been skiing, and so like I know first one of the mountains, like it is special. It is
Absolutely.
special, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it's a bit maybe I've lived here too long now, but it kind of feels like a bit repetitive. So I like the more kind of like organic places. Like I went up, I was in the Italian speaking bit and went up like this mountain near Locarno and just walked up and seeing those like little villages, like the rusticos, which is kind of a really only
Hmm.
like I don't know if that's in Italy, but it's something at least within Switzerland. It's only in the Italian part. We see this like I don't know. It's like these tiny little villages up halfway up the mountain with like seemingly like no utilities. Like I think they're more like holiday cottages than like proper homes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And like, seeing that kind of real side of Switzerland is nice to me. And I think if I ever left, if I came back, I would do stuff like that, not the touristy, not going to Zermatt, not going, yeah, not going to these kind of places.
The places where everyone is going and there are all the Instagram pictures from.
No, absolutely not. No Matterhorn, no Matterhorn.
Joe, you mentioned a few times the Swiss prices.
Yep.
And as someone who knows a lot of person doing the half Swiss experience, like you mentioned before, working in Switzerland and living behind the German border, so
Yeah.
on the German side, um, I don't really know how expensive actually living in living in inside the countries. And I want to ask you, has it changed how you handle money since you live in Switzerland?
Um, well, I think when you say it's expensive, I think there's quid pro pros, right? It's like, yeah, a house it probably costs, I don't know, twice what it does in Germany, but then like the interest rates are like 1%, not 4%. Um, and you pay a lot less tax, so there's always positives and negatives. Like, but then
Mm-hmm.
in some respects you get, in some things Switzerland's very good, but other times you have to pay a lot yourself, whereas you would get it through the state in other countries like the childcare. Do I handle money differently? Uh, I don't know. I feel like, in London, you always, I think this is true for most people who came from like England, and maybe other European countries as well. You feel like you're fighting for every penny. It feels like a dog eat dog world. Whereas in Switzerland, I kind of feel like a little bit more relaxed, because the salaries are that bit better. So I do
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit less stressed in that regard, but the cost of maybe having a bit more to do with the childcare than I would elsewhere. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it has made life like on those kind of hard metrics. It's certainly like I would say certainly a significant step up, from other European countries as far as I'm aware. Um, so it certainly would be actually cheaper living in Switzerland than Germany. If you look at I think I've got a lot of colleagues, and some of them say, oh, it's cheaper living in Germany, cheaper living over the border, and I think it's easy to like go to the supermarket and like think, oh, I'm paying, uh, you know, €3 for this piece of, this loaf of bread instead of 150 or something. But actually, for most people, I think the tax actually makes a lot more difference, and it's people don't think
Mm-hmm.
about it. So I think actually,
Mm-hmm.
when you like sit down and do the sums, and rather than think emotively, Switzerland's it's cheaper in that way.
I have to ask Joe talking in percentage because I can tell you from my German perspective I pay roughly 45%. So if you talk about tax, health care, and so on, How small is it in Swiss?
Well, it varies canton by canton, right? So, like
For sure.
Switzerland has, this is 24 cantons. I'll never get citizenship if that's
Hmm.
wrong. I think it's 24. And like it varies quite a lot, right? If you're in like Basel or Geneva, like so basically all of the French bits in Basel, simplified, and Bern as well, and Solothurn, then it's going to be quite, reasonably high. I think it goes up to like 40%, but like you have to earn a lot
Hmm.
of money to like, when you're talking like in like Germany or the UK, like, hitting that 40% at like maybe 50,000 a year, something like that.
Hmm.
Whereas in Switzerland, it would take you like to like hundreds of thousands to hit that. Where I live, it maxes out at 35. But you would need to earn a really, really high amount of money to earn that much. We
Hmm.
pay in the 20s, somewhere in the
Okay.
low 20s, I think. With us both
Okay. Yeah.
working 100%, in busy jobs. So,
But that's a big difference.
yeah,
That's a
for
big
sure,
difference.
for
I have
sure.
to
I
say
mean,
20%.
it's a massive difference from Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, is it's kind of starting from 45%. So it's the 45 that I pay on the salary directly, and then you have this the famous Steuererklärung that you have to fill in Germany, and then depending on the amount of money that you make as a family, it could be that you have to pay more. So
Yeah, and
that's
then you've
always
probably got
a
like
tricky one.
capital gains tax and stuff like that, I guess.
Uh, no, you have. There is already. I think it's again a social tax that
Oh,
we
right,
have to
yeah.
pay soon, and there was a solidarity
Oh,
tax
yeah,
that
this
I
East
paid
Germany
until
thing. Yeah.
exactly that I paid until I think 2 years ago or something like this, and then they stopped it.
That's
But now
good.
they are somehow putting it back in, so it's kind of
Yeah,
strange.
no, I appreciate you must have people from all over, and a lot of them might have this really like romantic, like I've always wanted to live in, like I don't know, like Brazil or like Thailand or somewhere. And people have done these amazing like Instagrammable photos and everything. This, wildlife. I'm afraid Switzerland is not like that. And I'm afraid it's for most people that come here, I think it's those boring humdrum things. But these things matter, right? And they especially matter when you've got family. Um,
Absolutely,
not maybe not super
you need it to be
exciting,
boring.
but you need it to be boring. I think, on the sensible boring metrics, Switzerland does very well.
Absolutely. Um, is there one thing that you wish you knew before moving?
I think there's one thing. I actually did know this, but there's one thing before buying a house. I think the moving thing was exactly as I expected. Like it was exactly as it was
Okay.
sold. But one thing before buying a house is, uh, you, you, I have to pay tax on the rent I pay myself. So if I own my own house, I have to pay tax on the rent that I pay to myself. As the property owner, I have to pay like an income tax if I live there myself in my own
Oh,
house, which is
oh
which is a
my.
catch.
Which is okay. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, okay.
So there is a bit of a catch on that.
Okay.
More
Uh,
widely, more widely. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just not an unpredictable country. It just isn't.
you absolutely. But like you said, with kids you need boarding, and I think it's important. It's really important to mention if you need safety, it's the country to be. If you need safety, if you
Oh
need
yeah, that
like a
is that
quiet
actually
life.
is worth something. I was shocked about one thing, and that's actually when you mentioned the kids. Like it's normal for children who are like 4 or 5 to walk to school by themselves in Switzerland. I don't know if it's the same in Germany.
Yes.
Is it? Right, yeah. I mean, like I think in the UK that would be looked at really strangely. Like you might have a kid walking like 8 or 9, but seeing 4 and 5 year olds walk to school by themselves is a bit of a
Yeah.
culture shock. I think like in the US, you'd probably be arrested if your kid. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. I mean, in US it's hard to walk generally
Yeah, but I mean, even
anywhere
in
you want
places
to
where
try
you
to go.
could walk to school, I think that would
Yeah.
just be a total no-no.
Yeah, so walking to school. I live also in a small village, so I think my village is somewhere around the
Yeah,
thousand
same as me. Yeah.
thousands inhabitants, and it's the same. Like the school is in a walking distance, so the primary school is a walking distance, so all the kids are walking. Of course, I have some I have some not German neighbors who are walking their kids to school always. Like you see the pattern
Yeah.
in the parents. Like it's so interesting, but it's a normal thing to walk to walk the
Yeah,
kids are walking alone to
I actually
school.
still walk my kid as the
Absolutely.
foreign. I still walk my kid in.
Guilty
That
as
that's
charged. Guilty as charged. The same. I mean, the it took me. So I have to say, I don't know if I ever told this story talking about safety because Germany is also not that far away from Switzerland. I think Switzerland is more safe than Germany is, but also Germany has its share of safety that you have it, especially in the small communities
Oh yeah, I
in
mean,
the
there's
rural
German villages
areas.
across the border. They feel very similar to the Swiss ones.
Exactly, exactly. And I keep telling the story. I have a back door to my house, and that leads to my garden. And I forgot it like wide open for about 2 weeks, day and night, because we were busy with work and stuff, and we didn't actually go in the back of the house because it's a bit far. And it was for
Yeah, no,
about
no,
2 weeks, like wide open, and
no.
no,
It's a really good place in that kind of respect. No,
exactly.
my kid seems a bit reluctant to walk to school by herself. I think she just wants a bit like a lot of older children, first children. I think she's a little bit clingy to her parents. So
Of course.
maybe we're just a little bit older. Maybe like a compromise between the English position and the Swiss position.
Trust me, you'll walk beside her, like 200 meters behind her to make sure that she's walking at the right
Oh
in the
yeah,
right place. So,
definitely.
um, Joe, before we wrap this up, I have some rapid fire questions. I want to thank you first of all, even though we didn't finish. Thank you for sharing. It it was much fun, the discussion. I have to say. Um, I have some rapid fire questions. First thing first, UK tea or Swiss chocolate?
Ooh, UKT. I actually think Switzerland's very good at marketing itself. I'm not really sure Swiss chocolate is all that special.
What about cheese?
I don't eat cheese, so I'm
Okay,
not very good at the Swiss food stuffs, I'm afraid.
okay, makes sense. Now I understand also your complaints about food. Like if you don't eat cheese, you miss 80% of the experience for sure.
Yeah, chocolate. Ugh. Yeah, no, I, I would say tea, even though like I'm more of a coffee drinker, but I'd still say English tea.
Okay. London Tube or Swiss
Oh
trains?
God, Swiss trains. You know, I think I think with the London Tube, it'll be broken down half the time. Someone will be on strike. You can overtake it walking. Swiss trains, they will be on time 99.99% of the time. It's super reliable. Yeah, that's an
Okay.
easy one.
Isn't that interesting that they are doing it even though they are nationwide and London is only for London? But I think the craziness of London, we have to be honest, the craziness of London is nothing that you can match because like the amount of people that are living in there, that's not natural. So
No,
that's not
and something always happens. There's always some crazy person on the tube. Something's happening. It's interesting that week. It's great. The
absolutely.
buzz is incredible.
Absolutely. What's your favorite Swiss word?
Bunzli, which is basically it's actually a real Swiss surname, and basically means like a narrow, close-minded person who is a stickler for the rules. Basically, it's the Swiss word for someone who is extremely Swiss. There's someone who reports their neighbors if they don't follow the rules, if they don't, if they cut their grass on a Sunday. Um, if there's any noise coming from the house, 10:01. But a real Swiss Bunzi wouldn't complain at 9:50. They would wait until it turned 10 and then call the police.
1001. Yeah, absolutely. I know that from Germany. But I forgot to ask you, I think the most important question. You just mentioned now the cutting the grass on a Sunday. How did you get used to the stores being closed on Sunday?
Oh God, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Oh no. I really don't have too much time for this. Like you talk to Swiss people about it and they're always like, oh, it's like a labor protection thing. Like, come
Yeah,
on, guys. No, it's not. Like your restaurants are open. What difference does it make? Why are restaurants open? Why does that make sense? Like something that's like, a luxury. is open, but like a shop isn't. It's just a hangover from Christianity, and not that Christianity is a bad thing, but it's like an enforcement of it, right? Um,
It's actually, it has an interesting story. I don't know if you know the story of it, because they were open until the 60s, and there was a huge. I don't know. Do you know the story of them?
no, I don't.
Because it's nothing to do with Christianity. It's so interesting. I really actually researched it because I was curious how did they manage to do it like this, or why. And there was, I think, in the 60s there was a huge protest made by kids in Germany and Switzerland. I think in Switzerland as well, but in Germany for sure. And it was the protests were called, and you can Google them afterwards. It's called Sonntag gehört Papi, and
Oh,
it was a protest like the parents should have Sundays off to spend with the family.
I mean, yeah. Why Sundays? I mean, I get the parents, maybe like there's got to be some labor protection to stop people working 7 days a
Yeah.
week in an inhumane hours, but I don't know, man. But then why just supermarkets? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's just
I
arbitrary. And then you go to the railway station, and which is like the only place the shops are open, and it's like a supermarket you've never seen. There's like instead of like 10 people, there's 1,000, and the queue is like half an hour long. But I
and you
always make
pay
a
the most money that you paid for a bread in your life.
yeah. I don't know. I struggle with that. I really like emotionally, spiritually struggle with.
I
Str
see it.
I
I
yeah,
see
I do not like that one bit. That's just it. Just feels so like you know, kind of weirdly controlling and weirdly like rules based. I like I'm not someone who likes like an anarchic situation, but that to me, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. So yeah, I'm a
Um,
regular. I try to do my best to undermine the system by going to like the tiny petrol station shops which are open on a Sunday, or or the railway supermarket. I feel like if enough people get involved and go to the railway, and it just becomes too busy, then they'll have to relent.
you want to do the protest the
Yeah,
other
but
way
I'm just
around.
not organized. I don't think I'm not one of those. I will never be organized to do everything on a Saturday. And also, like, times you're doing something else on a Saturday. You can do something with your kids on a Saturday. And yeah, so a few of these things will never be Swiss. Like all the Swiss do their recycling, and they, in England, when you've got cardboard recycling, you put it in a box, and then someone takes it away. Now in Switzerland, you have to get a piece of string and tie it up immaculately, and they can do it, and it's like it looks beautiful. It looks like someone's like done this work of art. When I do it, it looks like all the cardboard is falling out at the side. I just can't do it. I just not. I
Man,
don't have that Swiss gene where everything where it's so
y-
neat and perfect.
you have to think about the fact that I have recycling hof. I don't know. Do you have recycling hof?
Uh, well, kind of, right? So there's like a recycling center for like glass and
So I have it
plastics, but
for
not
plastic.
we have glass and plastics, but then you take like your no, not plastics, glass and metal, and then you take plastic somewhere else. But then like cardboard, the only way to do it is by tying it up, leaving it outside your front door. And that I just it's just you need a lot of time to do that, right? It's the whole system's predicated on someone being like a home and being like a perfect housewife. Yeah.
I like to say the same. Keep them busy. Keep them busy. Don't let them think. Keep them
So
busy.
like there's some respect, even though like I'm kind of like in many ways aligned with the Swiss way of system. I do have a problem with people who move to countries and then want to be like their home country. I don't want to be that person, but at the same time, I feel like you gotta be 100% the other way this. I'm like, I like to think I'm like 80% in the Swiss mindset, but like there's occasional thing like that Sunday opening where I like to stay in the UK way. Because I feel like, you move to Switzerland because you do think Switzerland is a better country than the UK, but like it doesn't mean it's 100% that way. I don't know if you feel the same with
Makes sense.
Germany and Romania.
Yeah. So the thing which is I got used to it. So shopping, I got used to it, and I have to say I got disciplined to go not even Saturday, because Saturday is you can kill yourself inside the store because it's
Oh, it's awful.
craziness
Yeah.
there. It's awful, and we got somehow disciplined to go on either on Thursday evening, because some of the stores they have an extra open time on Thursday, like they open 10 p.m., 10 p.m., and then we go really late on Thursdays. because on Saturday is crazy. But the recycling experience is killing me, man. I have half of my official washing room, let's call it like this, is full of separation bins for different kind of plastic. Because in Baden-Württemberg, when I live, I have to recycle. I think we have 7 kind of plastic
Oh
types.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and this is like this is yeah, I do it. I have to because otherwise the normal garbage is
I'm
more
impressed
expensive
with
if you
the
don't do it.
Germanic ability to organize is very strong. I don't think I'll
Yeah.
ever be quite 100% that.
Keep on busy. I told you.
Yeah,
Everything is organized. Everything is organized.
I try, I
Yeah.
try.
um what's your um UK comfort food that you crave the most?
I would say like an old-fashioned Indian curry. And when I say old-fashioned, I don't mean any of this like street food. I mean like an old-fashioned, like 1980s style curry house, where there's like a dependable menu of the old favorites. You know,
I
yeah,
love
like the
this. I
onion
love I
bhaji
love
side, like the way it always was. Like a totally inauthentic in like British Indian, like adapted for British taste. Indian food. I'd say that's something I would always have when I go home.
um what's one Swiss rule or law you secretly love besides the one that you don't like?
The one I do love. Let me think. Let me think. I I would say like it's less individual laws that I love, but more that people take them seriously. I think like if you had all these rules in the UK, um, like for example, like like after I've now got my permanent residence, I can file a tax return like every like year. I don't pay tax till the end. If you did this in Britain, like everyone would be like misreporting things. I think there's like an honesty and like a trust in society where people do the right thing and look out for their neighbors and have a sense of community. And like everything is organized at like the village level or at most the canton. Yeah, and there's a sense of like kind of maybe solidarity is the wrong word, but a sense of like like community and being there. I think that's kind of breaking down in the UK. I think it's true of a lot of the Western world. I think Switzerland's managed to maintain that. So it's
The
less like an
trust in
individual
each other.
law than the sense of the rule of
Hmm.
law is like the strength of
Yeah,
the rule of law
makes
is very
sense.
good.
Makes sense. The I think it's the trust in each other,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
surprising me a lot as well in Germany, because in Germany it's happening as well. So I have a car service which is like 300 meters away from my house, and usually my wife's car always goes there. We take it there, and I went one day to take the car, and he said, just go. I don't have the time to make your invoice today. Just come tomorrow again. And I went tomorrow, and tomorrow he said, yeah, not even today. No, 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 just come next week. And it took me 2 months to get my bloody invoice and pay
Yeah, I
for
mean it's
the
crazy, right?
services.
It's in Switzerland, you can do online shopping without paying for it, and it comes to your
Yeah,
house like with an invoice. Like if you did that in the UK, like no one would ever pay. It would
nobody.
be totally, it just wouldn't work. And
Do
that's what I
you
mean
do
about a
you have
sense of
the
trust.
do you have the flowers that you can that you can cut for yourself and then pay for them in a box?
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant,
How
right?
would that work? How would that work in UK?
No. I mean, to be fair to UK, I think there's a lot of times like, you might have like I don't know, a farmer selling eggs or something with an honesty box, and that might work okay, because I think that would be seen as like outright theft. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think when we go beyond the level of like this is some small person who's would suffer, I don't think it would go much further than that in the UK without problems.
Um, the last question, Joe. How did your relationship change with your home country since you're gone?
Right. Well, I think when I left, I was kind of just fed up. I kind of had my fill. like I really like respect London for what it has to offer, but I certainly wouldn't want to live there. Um, Nice to visit, not nice to live. Now I've been away for a bit, I kind of get nostalgic. For some of the things that the UK has that Switzerland doesn't have. Some of that, and I'm sure the community warmth that like back in my hometown. Everyone knows everyone, as opposed to me being some like like foreigner who like comes home and no one ever says hello to. That kind of sense of neighborliness. Where I'm never going to be part of their world. That's something I really miss. Um, and certainly, like I think I would either. I think if I went weirdly, I think if I went home to my home country, I'd want to go home to my home region. I'd either stay completely away or go right back home.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing which I fully understand what you're saying. I have to say that somehow I have the feeling that we can kind of go through the same roller coaster of feelings, because it's exactly, I 100% know what you mean, because it's that feeling of knowing everyone, like saying hello to everyone on the street, and not saying hello out of curiosity, out just saying hello because you know exactly who that guy is, who's his brother,
Yeah.
who are his parents, and so on. And that's something that you miss a lot when you're outside.
Yeah, I guess when you grow up, you never like when you grow up, especially when you're like your parents are native to that country and you come from like a homogenous background, I guess you never think of yourself as someone who, when you grow up, is going to leave. And you kind of you're living a
Absolutely.
different life to the one you always expected to have. Like I didn't have this
Correct.
I didn't have this plan. And at 18, I was going to come here when I was 30 something. Um, so like this kind of you kind of almost, even though you're the one who chose it and chose it for good reasons, I think you still kind of mourn the life you didn't have, even though you chose it. I don't know if you feel like that. It's you always think about what the other side of
That's
the
why,
coin.
yeah, you always like to experience the things that you haven't experienced, because you don't know how they feel. And I think that's the reason why everyone is saying that happiness is a choice. Like you said, you have to learn to enjoy the things that you have, and not cry for the things that you don't have.
Exactly.
Because at the end you will always have things that you don't have. Like, if you wouldn't have moved outside of UK, you would have thought, okay, would have been better? I don't know. I would have loved to do that. Look, that village in Switzerland looks amazing.
I always say, I talk to a few people thinking about moving, and I always say, like, make sure, like, the most important thing is to know yourself, know the kind of person you are, and think about the country you're going to move to, and think, could I live with that? And I think the worst thing people do is have like I don't know, like an almost like instinctive, like they see something they don't like, and they're like, right, I'm going to go now, and then they kind of go to somewhere and say, oh no, actually, I don't like this place, in a way that could have been predictable. I think it's important. Like when I went to Switzerland, even though I'd never been there before, really, I had an idea of what it'd be like. I knew myself. I knew I could live with the downsides. Everywhere has downsides. So, like, know that and know yourself and embrace that decision. I guess it's okay to move back home, but I would rather not be, especially with kids, like making it a thing, going somewhere, going back. So I'm happy to, there are downsides, but I'm happy to live with them. And
I I think besides the fact that you have to know yourself, is you have to know your reasons.
mm,
I think the reasons are more important than knowing yourself. And um, the like you mentioned at the beginning, you did it for the kids, like for the safety of the kids. That's the best reason that you can have, because then something that can cover all the downsides that you might meet on the way. But that's the goal, and your goal is reached, and that's why you are accepting everything that's coming towards you.
yeah, I mean, I
And
just think,
the fact that you
yeah, there's not, when you have kids, there's nothing that is as important as like giving your kids like the best opportunity you can as a parent. And I think when growing
absolutely.
up in a kind of an objectively kind of safe, rich country, that if I can keep hold of that, I will.
And I have to be honest, I moved outside of Romania before I had kids, and the only thing that was in my head was exactly this: I want to give them to make it for them easier than it was for me.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only
So
reason.
they don't have to move.
Yeah. Joe, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks very much. Seems like we've gone through some of the same thoughts.
Absolutely. That's the reason why I started this, Joe, to be honest, because I realized I'm not the only one doing this, and I want to have these experiences, because when you are alone and you think about all these experiences alone, you think that you're crazy and you are the only one going through this. But when you realize, no, it's normal. Like, this is what everyone is experiencing. You have to choose your fights and you have to choose your heart. That's why it makes it easier.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I enjoyed the hell out of the conversation, and maybe we get to do it again someday.
Okay, great.
Who knows?
See ya. Thanks, Paul.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.